Welcome back to the Candid Conversation show. My name is Muriel, and on the show, we discuss topics that are unspoken and taboo in our community. Our guest tonight is Commissioner Bakari Burns. Commissioner Burns is in District 6. He is President and CEO of Healthcare Center for the Homeless. He will be sharing his love for people, community, quality healthcare, and his future initiatives. Commissioner Burns, we want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We know that you're extremely busy, and we appreciate you taking your time to be here with us.
Yeah, but never too busy for a candid conversation.
There you go.
Thank
there you
you.
go. We appreciate it.
We love it.
Yes.
Now look, we see the man in the nice suit, the father,
Yes.
the leader.
Yes.
But what can you tell us about little Bakari growing up?
Thank you. And again, thank you for allowing me to be here. Little Bakari grew up in a house full of women.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so
Oh boy.
I have an older sister, Busada Pitts.
Okay.
And I was raised by my mother and my grandmother.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was young. I don't ever remember them being together.
Okay.
But I grew up right here in Orlando.
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. And so my sister is 2 years older than I am.
Okay.
And so just growing up in the house of women, one, there was a lot of love shown.
Yeah.
Good.
Some will say that I was spoiled.
Of course you
That's
were.
A little
okay.
bit. But also I think that's where I gained my desire to protect the women that were close to me.
Okay.
Because, being the man in the house, when we would travel together in the car, there were 3 doors that I would open,
Oh my
as
goodness.
opposed to just one.
Right.
And so that really got me in the mind frame of caring and protecting not just those around you and your family members, but
Right.
especially the women in your life. So fortunate
So sweet.
to grow up in a very loving family.
Good.
As I mentioned, grew up in Orlando,
Yeah.
attended Eccleston Elementary,
Okay.
which
Okay.
was right down the street, so I was able to, my sister and I were able to
Walk.
walk to school.
Okay.
Then also went to Carver Middle School.
Okay.
That was also in walking distance. So I spent a lot of time in the community.
Yeah.
And then following Carver, it was interesting, and when I was in the 8th grade at Carver Junior High, it was junior high at the time, I got into this big fight at school, and my mom pulled me out of Carver and sent me to Memorial Middle
Okay.
School. And I think that may have been a good move for me.
Okay.
Because then I started to get new friends, but then they moved me from being in regular classes at Carver to now I was in advanced class.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
So
Okay.
I think it then made me kind of step my game up
Yes,
a
yes.
little bit.
That helps.
And yeah, so that move where I hated it at the time,
Yes.
to leave one school to go to another, I look back and thank my mom for seeing that, okay, my son may be going down
Wrong path.
wrong path. Let me do some course correction now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I appreciate that. And so, and that, that was my life. And I spent a lot of time out in the community,
Okay.
Played football for Willie Mays Cougars
Okay.
at Willie Mays Park, played football in Carver Shores for the Boys Club. So
Okay.
I was always outside. My sister, wasn't outside as much, but I got a chance to just, really hang out. And I didn't have a male figure in the home.
Okay.
So, I didn't go and go fishing and camping and things like that. So I kind of grew up on my own outside. But when I came back in the home, it was a loving place, a lot of correction.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
And,
You need that.
and again, while I didn't appreciate it then, I look back and say thank you to my
appreciate it
mother
now.
and my grandmother now.
Yeah.
And my mother, beautiful woman of the
Yes, she
community.
is.
And also my grandmother is 97 years old,
God
still
bless
living.
her.
Yes, so we're excited and pleased and thankful that we still have her, with us. And I just thank the Lord every day for the family that I have.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
mentioned that you didn't have a male figure growing up. Did you have any male mentors, uncles, or?
Yeah, so while my father didn't live in the home with us, I was very close with my father's father.
Okay.
good.
Because I spent my summers in Valley, Alabama.
Okay.
So, you know, in the country. So that's
Yes.
where, you know, we had a garden.
Okay.
And so I learned some of my outdoor skills there. So while
Very
my
good.
father wasn't there then, I was close to my grandfather. But later on in my young years, my Uncle Ernest Page
Okay.
was very influential
In your life.
in my life.
Awesome.
He and my older cousin Ernest Page II,
Oh boy.
now Dr. Page, and then when I say Ernest Page, I need to correct that and say Mayor Page.
There you go. That's
Yes.
right.
Mayor
Get it
Page
right.
and Dr. Page, those are two male figures in my life that
Very
really had, and you know, and guided me and
awesome.
corrected me, and
Good.
you know, two men that I look up to. You know, my cousin Ernest was growing up. He was the coolest person that I knew,
Okay.
but he was also the smartest person that I knew. And so, at a young age, I realized that it was cool to be smart.
That's right.
You know, and so, you know, oftentimes you hear about kids who are smart, but they kind of dumb themselves down
Yeah.
because it's not cool.
It's not
I
cool,
always
right.
grew up knowing that it was cool to be smart because I knew my cousin was smart, and to me, he was the coolest guy
Yeah.
around. So, so I never had
Nice.
that problem of trying to dumb myself
yourself
down,
down.
because if anything, I stood up
Yes.
because he, you know, insisted that I do so.
Good. I'm
Right.
glad you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what you didn't say?
What's that?
You didn't tell us that you're a graduate of Jones High School.
Let me correct you. The mighty Jones. Yeah, I'm fortunate, you know, and actually, my entire family graduated
From
from
Jones?
High School.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
my mom graduated, I believe, in '64.
Okay.
Around that time, my uncle went to Jones, as well as my sister. I graduated in '92.
Okay.
Was on the
Wow.
football team. You know, and so I love Jones High. I spend time there now.
We
Okay.
know, we
And
see.
and you know, fortunate that in my professional career we have relationships with Jones.
That's right.
So you know, and I'm very proud of Jones
Yeah.
High.
That's
Proud
great.
of you know, all of the leaders that they produce.
Absolutely.
You know, our county mayor.
Strong leaders.
You know, graduated from Jones High.
Jones,
My fellow city commissioner, Commissioner Regina Hill,
Okay.
she
is a
graduated
graduate
from Jones,
of
okay.
Jones High. You know, so there are a lot of, you know, Jones High Tigers are in leadership positions
Influential.
and serving, and that's what we've always been about, is the service,
That's
you know,
beautiful.
service to others.
Thank you, thank you. And honors, an honored graduate.
Yes.
Not just a graduate.
Right. You know, and it's, and I think that was important because, you know, when I look back, I've been blessed to,
Yes.
and one blessing that was huge to me and my was when I was about to graduate, I received the Walt Disney World
Oh,
scholarship.
wow.
So back in those days, Disney gave a scholarship to a senior in each one,
Okay.
and it was part of the Florida prepaid
Okay.
program.
Okay.
And so, fortunately, in '92,
You
I was
received
selected.
that.
Yeah, I
That is
received
awesome.
it, and it was interesting because I had taken the ASVAB and scored pretty high, and actually, I was considering going into the military.
Oh, wow.
And so they had this award, this scholarship award ceremony at Jones.
Okay.
And I was actually contemplating not going because I didn't, you know, I had applied for scholarships,
Right.
but hadn't won
Okay.
any.
So you're like,
you know,
I'm
and
not
I
gonna
didn't,
get this.
right, and I didn't have the.
Right.
But I did feel that I was well-rounded
Okay.
because I played sports and, you know, volunteered in the community. So I decided to go at the last minute to this awards, scholarship awards, and the biggest scholarship that
Went
given
to
to
you.
me.
My
Yeah, Walt
goodness.
Disney World Scholarship was a 4-year, everything.
Wow.
It was up to a $40,000 scholarship.
How did you feel?
Oh, I felt great.
Of
You know,
course.
after, you know, receiving it, I just went outside and thanked the
Thank you,
Lord.
Lord.
Right, because again, I was just about to sign the papers to go in.
The military.
Right, and so that was the best thing, you know, and I look back and just am very thankful to
Yes.
Walt Disney for
Yes.
giving me that scholarship and relieving my mother of the
Absolutely.
burden
Financial.
of put right. So my mother, you know, she's been very giving of herself, you know, throughout. She taught math at Jones High. She's been very giving, and I think the Lord blessed her for both of her kids to receive scholarships.
Oh, that's
So now
great.
my sister received a full scholarship to Florida A&M
Okay.
because she was a valedictorian.
My
Okay.
goodness.
And so, they would give, FAMU would offer scholarships to the valedictorian, the salutatorian,
Oh my.
and then I received the Walt Disney prepaid scholarship. So
I
we were
know
very
your mother
blessed.
Was
was
so proud.
So proud
Yeah.
for her being in the school system
In the
as
school,
well for
right.
what, over 26 years?
Well, probably about 20, because I've said 27, she's corrected me and said
Oh.
29.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
You
get
know,
that right.
But
Right,
she
and-
also has a building named after her.
Yes, the academic building at Jones High is named after her,
It's
the
just
Barbara Page
amazing.
Burns Academic Center. And now her, she's been retired for probably about 7 or 8 years. Probably
Good for
spends
her.
more time at Jones than, than before. But her passion is giving out scholarships. She just
Okay.
started a scholarship in her name, I think the last couple of years, but she's probably on several different scholarship committees. So that's her passion. And I'm sure she says that this is what provided relief to our family,
There you
and she
go.
wants to help others.
Absolutely.
And I run into people all the time that says, your mom helped my son or my daughter get a
this
scholarship.
scholarship. Oh, my
And
goodness.
so I come from, I tell people my family business
Yes.
is service.
Yes.
That's right.
That's our
Yes,
family
that's
Always
awesome.
business.
done. Your
Yeah.
mom, it started with your mom and it
Right.
just continued.
It just continued, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Now you went to Florida A&M University.
yes, yes.
What did you major in, and do you have a defining moment, something that stuck out to you in college?
Yeah, so when I went to Florida A&M, I initially went to study pharmacy.
Okay.
I wanted to be a pharmacist, and it's an
deal.
interesting story. You know how they have the teach-ins at the schools. So when I was a senior, we had a teach-in at Jones,
Okay.
and Archbishop Allen Wiggins, who wasn't Archbishop at that time, he came. He was a pharmacist, and
Okay.
you know Bishop Wiggins with the Hope Church.
Yes.
And so, but a lot of people don't know that.
Pharmacist. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Like, what did I want to be? And it was that day that I decided I wanted to be a pharmacist. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going into pharmacy. So then fast forward, I get, the scholarship, I'm FAMU, and then I take chemistry 1045.
Oh boy.
And I studied, and I still made.
That's good.
Yeah, but the thing was, and my mom would always say this, I wasn't known for studying hard.
Okay.
Now my sister studied, and I wasn't known for studying hard, but I still made the A's and B's.
Right.
So for me to study hard and get a C,
C.
it was kind of devastating.
Right.
Oh
I
man.
said, well, maybe farm,
It's not for
For
me.
me.
and then so I switched my major and went into healthcare management.
Okay, there you
So I
go.
pursued a bachelor's of science in healthcare management, and then through that training, I did my internship at a community health center in Bond,
Okay.
in Tallahassee,
Okay.
the Bond Community Health Center, and
Okay.
that's when my love for community health kicked in. So I think a defining moment for me was doing my internship at Bond, where I was able to help individuals access healthcare services. And what I saw was that there were a lot of hardworking people in the community who just didn't have,
They didn't have the money for it.
whether they didn't have the money for it or
Right.
their jobs didn't provide for it, or didn't work enough hours to
Exactly.
qualify
for it.
for it, but they still needed and should be given quality healthcare
That's right.
services. So during my internship is when the light came on,
Yeah.
and I said, Lord, this is what
This
I
is
want
it.
to do.
Yeah.
Service, and then service to a community that that needs this healthcare,
Right.
but without someone sure that they get it, they may not have access to it.
Right.
So I think that was my defining moment, my internship at Bond Community Health Center, and just really shaped what I wanted to do in the future, and just how I could serve my community.
That's right, and you have done just that. But I want to make sure I get this just right. So I'm going to look at this because I want to make sure I get it right. You are the CEO and president of the Healthcare Center for the Homeless,
For the homeless.
serving Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County.
Right,
Lord.
yes,
So
yes.
that, as you said, you fell in love with that.
Right.
Serving, wanting to help people,
Right.
and healthcare is, if you have no insurance,
Yes.
how are you going to get treated? How can you get taken care of?
It's a challenge.
Yes.
It's a challenge. And so with the Healthcare Center for the Home, so I became the CEO of the Healthcare Center for the Homeless. I was 29.
Wow.
And so, and it was interesting, that story, you know, I had run a, because I started off as an intern.
Right.
Okay.
And my last job at Bond was the interim CEO.
Okay.
So I went from the intern, management analyst, chief financial officer, chief operating officer, then interim CEO. And so when I heard about the job here, I applied for it. And I was 29. And as the gentleman that hired me told me, it came down to myself, a young African-American male, you know, who had experience,
Right.
and a Caucasian pharmacist that had run a hospital.
Okay.
And so we
Okay. Okay.
very dedicated board of all, I think all but 2 of them were Caucasian,
Okay.
white, 2 African Americans, and they selected the young African American to lead this organization. So I think that was a testament
Wow.
that those individuals, and I thank them to this day,
Yes.
that they didn't see color.
No, thank goodness.
And maybe they did, and maybe they saw that as a benefit.
To
You know,
them,
because you can
okay.
see color and see it as a benefit
That's true.
to what's needed in the
Absolutely.
community. But they gave me probably the biggest opportunity of my life. And so when I took over in 2003, we had about 23 employees, a budget of about $1.9
Okay.
million.
Okay.
And we served probably about a little less than 5,000 patients. So
Oh my
fast
gosh.
forward, 16, 17,
Wow.
we've grown to where we have 7 locations.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
We serve, we have about 150 employees.
Amazing.
And we have a budget of about $17 million.
Wow.
So
Congratulations on that.
The Lord has really blessed
Wow.
us. And the thing is, we've been able to, and I'm thankful that we've been able to grow to meet the need of
The
the
people, that's right.
so, and that's one thing, because it can be frustrating trying to serve
Right.
and not having enough resources to
That's
serve
right.
the need.
Yeah,
You know,
the
the
people.
need almost all the time outweighs.
It's
The-
true.
That's
Yeah.
the truth.
But it's about how you efficiently use those resources and be good steward of those resources.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Love it.
Yeah.
I've been in healthcare since 14 years old.
Okay.
Candy striper, and just built my way all the way up.
Right.
And I just love it. What makes you passionate about home care for the homeless?
You know, it goes back to the service. You know, because everything that I do is focused on service to
Yes.
others. Because that's how I grew up.
You see,
know,
I think it's old school. That's how we
yeah.
grew up too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all about sort of helping. And I can remember when my mom she would tutor them in math.
Yeah.
And I would love it because that was the time that her eyes weren't on me and I can get out
Yeah.
and go. But service, but also being a facilitator of helping people get something that is so critical.
It is
That
critical.
if they don't get it, they could actually die.
Yes.
You know, so it's very personal for me, and so I think that's what it is, the service, but also the ability to show someone compassion.
Yes.
You know, one of the things when I first started working at the health center, I would walk through our lobby and I would say good morning and extend my hands
Right.
to individuals, and what I would see was, you know, people kind of reluctant to
Right,
shake
right.
my hand. And I was like, you know, what is it about me that I'm not connecting with these individuals? But then I started to realize is that it wasn't something within me.
You.
Right.
They weren't used to that.
Absolutely.
Think about how many times we walk past a homeless person or
Yeah.
a person experiencing homelessness
Right.
and extended our hand to shake their hand.
Right,
Probably
never.
never.
Yeah.
And so when they see someone coming with their hand
Yeah.
you know, extended, they're like, hey.
Wait a minute.
But then after a while, they started
Yeah.
to look for that. Then I extending their hand
Yes.
to me. And you know, so it's those types of things that we have to recognize that we're all human beings.
We are. Yes.
We all have the same needs. We all should be safe. We all should have access
Yes.
to affordable housing, affordable healthcare services, because those are the. And so if I can play, you know, a small role in ensuring that members of our community No, this is my dream job.
That's
That's
right.
wonderful.
This is my dream
And
job.
you're not just doing a small part.
Mm-mm.
You're not just doing a small part.
It's a big part.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bakari Burns.
Yes.
Congratulations again
Thank you.
on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me, what were your emotions? How were you feeling? Like, let's just say, not even at that moment, because at that moment you're probably still stunned.
Right.
But the next day.
But let me go even before that.
Okay,
moment.
okay, good.
So if you know, and you all may have followed my race or what have you, but it was a very intense race.
Yes.
I was up against a gentleman who I have a lot of respect for, Senator Siplin.
Yes.
And it came down to he and I
Right.
in the runoff, and he's my fraternity brother. So it was a
Good
very it was a very interesting race where you're sitting across the table
Yeah.
debating someone that you have a lot of respect
Right.
for, but also your fraternity brothers.
Yes.
And I've supported he and his wife
Of course.
in the past.
Yes.
And so a lot of people question me about running against,
Yeah. Right.
right? But I had to tell them I'm not running. I'm running to serve
The
in this
community.
position.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, and so throughout the race, I was out fundraise. So fundraising was an issue
Right.
for me. Individuals would say, they have the sibling range, but I think what people, I don't know if they forgot or didn't realize, is how my family has served this community
for years.
for years,
Yes.
and so when I would go knock on doors, I would hear, after I tell, and they say, "Oh, you're," and then and I would hear, "Your mom helped my son. This,
Right.
your mom helped my grandmother." I
Right.
would hear individuals talk about my uncle, Mayor Page, and he, because he served for District 6. They would talk about all the things he did for the
Right.
district. Even I would run into individuals who would talk about my grandmother.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And so when you show up and you're trying to explain yourself, and when they recognize who you are, they roll the red carpet. Come
Right.
on in, you like something, and just tell you stories about
Yeah.
your family has had a positive impact on them. So I think a lot of people who are looking at the race, I think outside, thought that I didn't have a chance. But I've always, I think, worked well in that position as the underdog. But again, it wasn't about just winning. It was about convincing District 6
Yes.
that I was the person to lead them forward. So there was a lot of emotions. It was times
Yes.
where, we've talked about, and we don't talk enough about mental. But there was times where I felt lost. I felt some, I'll say depressed in some issue
Right.
because, it's like, okay, I have a full-time,
Yes.
now I'm doing something that I've never done.
Right.
I'm preparing for debates.
Yes.
I'm researching topics that I have,
It's overwhelming. Yes.
and then I need,
Of course. Yeah.
And so, and it can get lonely, even though you
Yes.
it did get a point where it was lonely, and so there was some mental health things that I had to deal with, but I had two great counselors,
Okay.
Good.
Addison Marie Burns and Adira Monet Burns, my daughters.
Okay.
And so what would happen, Daddy would maybe in a say a depressive state,
Right.
but when I would see them
You'd like that.
light up, and so and that's key. When we talk about having family, because I think everyone deals with some bouts of depression.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
But it's how deep you go. And so I was fortunate that I may have a long day, but I know at the end of the day, I would see my daughters,
Yeah.
and whatever valley I said, wait, what do you know? He said, well, at this point, because of the mail-in votes, there's no way that Mr. Sipling can catch up. He said, now, I'm writing my story. I'm not going to publish it until it's official. He said, I believe that you have won. So my phone started ringing. My campaign manager called,
Wow.
said, hey, meet us. We were celebrating at Bloodhound Brewery. He said, we're here. We're waiting for you. And so it was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So you have to go in, and kind of keep it together.
That's right.
But it was that next day that it started to
Yes,
sink in,
sinks in.
and I just started thanking the Lord, hugging my kids, thanking my daughter's mom, who's been very supportive
Yes.
of me, and then it started saying that I am the commissioner.
Yes, you are.
And so it was a lot to deal with. It was, and I still to this day look around and say, wow, thank the Lord for allowing me to be in this position at this time. And these are some uncertain times, some unprecedented times, but I wouldn't want to be in any other position to have a voice and to make some policies or focus on the change that our community needs, so everyone is protected. Everyone has equal access and equal protection under the law. And so that's my focus.
Yes, that's amazing. That's wonderful. I like the fact that the siblings were, you still continue to speak. I mean, they were friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome and amazing for you to even, say that.
Yeah, and I like I said, I've supported them because the thing is, we're all in this together.
That's right.
I know his intentions and his wife's intentions are pure and service.
Yes.
Mine was the same. We just, had a few different ideas of how we wanted the community to look, but we still in this together.
That's right.
No
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something else. Sorry,
Okay.
Ruby. Tell me some of your views. I know we're running out of time, but I want to hear some of your views on the police brutality and what is taking place right now during these times.
Yeah, well, I reflect back on that 8-minute and 46-second video.
Yes.
And that, to me, that shook me to my core.
Yes.
Because what I saw was a grown man
Yes.
essentially begging for his life,
That's right.
saying he can't breathe.
That's right.
And when he called out for his deceased mom,
That was it.
it was something. So that shook me, and that was a traumatic experience for me and for many. And see, what happens in our African American community and many minority communities is there's a lot of trauma that goes unaddressed.
Yes.
Right? And so that was a traumatic experience for me. So I mourned in my own way. I was outraged.
Yes.
And so what that sparked me to say is, hey, the Lord put me in this position at this time for a reason.
Yes.
And I have to do what I can do
Yes.
to make sure that we get this right.
That's right.
Because we have an opportunity to force some structural changes
Absolutely.
to address institutional and systematic racism.
That's right.
And we must get it right.
We have to.
We have to get it right. And so I've been encouraged. I've been, it has given me the enthusiasm to see our young people out in the streets protesting, letting their voice be heard, demanding change.
Yes.
That's right.
And I had the opportunity to speak at a rally that was put together by a youth group, Black and Unconfined.
Yes.
Okay.
And as I was talking, I started looking in those youth, the eyes of the youth, and it was so inspiring.
Yes.
I was excited for them and proud of them, but they inspired me because I owe it to them.
That's right.
They're out here voicing their opinion, and I encourage them to continue to do so. Don't let anybody stop you from doing that.
That's right.
You fight on that end, and trust that I'm gonna be fighting for on this end. So we need some, definitely some changes within our system, because oftentimes it's a culture. So we have to start to address some of the root causes of what we see. And I'm in a position to impact that change, and I guarantee that I will fight for what the community needs.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank
We all
you.
need to do our part.
Yes.
You propose incentivizing officers to live in the community that they actually service.
Right.
Can you share?
Yeah, sure. So when we look at the makeup of many police departments across the nation, African Americans and minorities are oftentimes underrepresented. And we have that here in the Orlando Police Department. So what we have is a recruitment issue.
Okay.
Because we all want to recruit from the neighborhoods, but if we don't have the youth that are interested and excited about becoming a police officer, so that's what we have now. We have some recruiting issues. So what I propose, because it's all about when you think about your neighbor, all right, and we have good neighbors and bad neighbors,
Yes.
Right.
but they're your neighbors. But you see your neighbors and you see them as neighbors. You don't see them as a threat
No.
to you. And so the thought behind incentivizing officers to live in the communities that they work is to build that sense of community, for them to see
Yes.
the people that they're supposed to be serving and protecting
Absolutely.
Daily.
daily as neighbors and not anything other than that.
That's
Yes.
right.
And
I
so
like that.
you approach your neighbor and you serve your neighbor and you protect your neighbor differently than you potentially would attempt to serve and protect a stranger.
Yes.
And so that's, and people have asked me about details. I'm not sure exactly
Right.
how that will look, but but I'm open to the conversation of what does that look like? Because I did mention that on a call we had with some activists a few days ago. And one of the young ladies responded, well, I'm not sure if I am, for that idea, because we already have a housing crisis. And then so you're saying giving, housing, this limited housing stock to police, and then we don't want racists moving into
Right,
our
right.
communities. I said, well, let's back up, because that incentivizing is not the only thing that will be in a proposal.
Right.
This is one of many things that have to happen. So we have to address the training of the officers. One of the things that I want to focus when we talk about de-escalation
Yes.
training or cultural appropriate training,
Okay.
but we also
Like that.
need to look at training of the trainers.
There you go.
Because when you look at that video, the gentleman, the murderer who
Yes.
had his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck,
Yes.
he was kind of the senior person
Absolutely.
there. It was also a officer who had only been on the force
Yeah.
for a few weeks.
Yes.
So what he was doing
Yeah.
was training and displaying the action
Right.
that these young recruits
So sad.
will get, and they will start to act like that.
Absolutely.
So when we're talking about individuals who are training recruits, they need to be held to a higher standard
right.
and ensure that they have the training that gives them the tools to be a good trainer for others, so they don't start training on this culture or this bad behavior. Because you think about when one of the officers, and also the duty to intervene, you think about the one officer who checked Mr. Floyd's pulse,
Right.
told the murderer that he has no pulse,
Right.
get off him and flip him over, and he said no, and kept his knee on
Knee
his
right on
neck
his neck.
for another 2 minutes.
Come on.
And so when you talk about the duty to intervene,
Yes.
this officer attempted
He tried.
to intervene,
Right.
but you had this murderer who was set on
Yes.
doing whatever was focused in his mind.
Right.
And I believe it was making an example. Because if you look at the pictures, he was kind of, his demeanor was like, what are you going to say about it?
Exactly.
What can you do about
What
it?
can you do about it? And so that kind of takes me back to, kind of the Willie Lynch syndrome when we talk about the making of a slave.
Yes.
Because what they would do was get the most outspoken slave, tar and feather him, and make a mockery in front of the other slaves, in front of the
Exactly.
women. So the women started to raise their sons to be docile.
Yes.
The men didn't speak out because they felt, and so that when I saw that, that's one of the things that popped in my mind. So we have to make sure that the trainers have the necessary training so they can be a good example. And also, they talk about the length of time that officers are go through the academy
Exactly.
or what have you, and and you give them a gun and tell them to go patrol this area. My thing is, we need to train them on serving and protecting first,
Absolutely.
number one.
That is.
That's number
because
one.
that's their job.
Yes.
Train them on how to serve and
And
protect
protect.
a community.
That's right.
Then let's talk about policing the community. But what oftentimes go first is policing.
Yeah,
No, let's talk
unfortunately.
about serving,
Serve
serving,
and
protecting.
Right.
Let's start there.
Right.
And then, because one of the things that I'll be proposing or, offering to the mayor, suggesting is the different response teams.
Okay. good.
Because you have, everybody calls the police for whatever's happening.
Go
If
find
there-
this dog. Go
Right,
do
right,
this.
right. And if there's a man in the middle of the street and everybody who passes him knows that there's a mental health issue. The police are called.
Right.
But the time that man does not comply with the police officer, potential deadly force will
Yes.
be used.
Yes.
Because that it's not fair for that police officer because they're not trained in mental health. So if that's a call about a potential mental health, there needs to be a different response team.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's something that we, you know, I want to propose it, you know, because, you know, a young lady gave an example. We were on a call that a friend of hers was raped. They called the police. She convinced the young lady to call the police. 4 white men showed up, right, at different times, asking her the same question. Well, she had to explain to them 4 different times to 4 white men.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
She was just right. Right.
Repeating this
Right.
over and
So
over
we
again.
need to be sensitive to that. We need to have the appropriate response.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, I probably get 100 emails a day to my city account about defunding the police. And so the question is, what does that mean?
Right.
You know, and if you ask 5 different people, you get 5
different
different answers. So what I kind of stay away from is that broad nomenclature of defunding the police.
Right.
But let's talk about how do we utilize the resources and allocate the resources that we have.
That's right.
I agree.
What's the best use of these resources? So let's, you know, and as we have to do in our own lives, as I have to do as the president and CEO of the Healthcare Center for the Homeless, we have to step back every year and look when it's budget time to say, hey,
Let's evaluate.
let's evaluate.
Yeah.
Are where we're investing our dollars, is it giving us the return that we're
we
looking
need.
for? Is it giving us the protection of this community?
Right.
Is it giving us the service
Yes.
to the community? Or what we're getting is brutality, injustice, you know, not individuals not feeling like they can go to a entity that is there to serve and protect. So there's a lot of things, you know, that we're looking, but the key, and you know, because people ask me, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right now, I'm listening.
Yes. Yes.
All right, because I sit in
number
the,
one.
that's number one.
Yes.
Because on the campaign trail, I never told anyone I have all the answers.
No.
But what I did tell them is I will listen to you, sit down and work with you, and we together
Yes.
will come up with what the
There you
answers
go.
are. So that's the position. I have my ideas.
Yes.
But so I'm again, we'll continue to listen to the community,
Very
and
good.
then, you know, we'll be submitting something to the mayor for his consideration.
Very
Very
good.
good.
I want to ask something
Sure.
unorthodox here.
Sure. It's Candid
Okay.
Conversation.
It's Candid
Ask what you
Conversation,
like.
but I want to know, have you ever been stopped and racially profiled?
I have.
Really?
I have. I've several times, and I'll give you one.
Okay.
And this is interesting. So this happened probably 3 years ago.
Oh, my
all right.
goodness.
So I was at a conference in Miami. So I had a rental car. You know, I believe it may have been a Charger. You know, one of the cars that, you know, the young guys, you know, like driving these fast cars. You know, and I have a SUV. So, you know, you tap the gas a little bit. That's it, right? So I had just come back from Miami.
Right.
I had on a white button-down shirt,
Okay.
and so I'm actually about to pull up on I-4.
Okay.
And so when I'm hitting the gas, and it, you know, kind of
Took off.
took off, right? So the police pulled me over, and I won't say if this was profiling, but
Okay.
but I believe it was. But so they pulled me over, and so I'm sitting there. So it's a police officer here, and I see another police officer in my rearview mirror.
Oh, wow.
At this point, he's
Okay.
taking out his gun.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
So I asked the police officer on my left, I said, do you all usually pull out your guns on routine traffic stops?
Right.
And he said, well, who's pulled out his gun? I said, your partner.
Right.
I'm looking at him in my rearview mirror.
Right.
So at this time, I could tell that he was communicating to this other one over the.
Of course.
So fast forward, he said, well, I stopped you because, you know, how you took off on the ramp, but I'm not going to give you a ticket.
Okay.
But then the police officer came and said, hey, aren't you the guy who runs the health center? Now, this is the one that had just
Pulled his gun.
pulled his gun. Said, aren't you the one that, you know, the guy that runs the health? I said, yeah. He said, oh, man, you have a card? Because my auntie needs to get some dental services.
Not my auntie.
Right, my auntie needs to get some dental services. Right, and so I'm thinking in my mind, now, you went from pulling
Pulling out
your
your gun.
Asking me for my
now you're
business
asking
card.
me for my business card. And again, and I mentioned the white shirt
Yes, yes.
because what they may have seen was a Dodge Charger and a guy with a white T-shirt. They probably thought it was a T-shirt.
Right.
But the key of these officers, they were 2 black officers.
Oh, man.
They weren't white. So when we talk about a culture, you see, now these are my brothers.
Right, right.
These were my brothers that, you know, I was treated. So that was one of the most recent. Now, you know, I've you know, had encounters with, you know, with white officers that I truly felt that the color of my skin influenced how I was treated.
Right.
Right.
You know, and it's funny, a friend of mine still messes with me to this day, because he and I were on the phone.
Okay.
I was driving to Tallahassee, it's been probably 6 years ago. I was driving to Tallahassee and I'm getting pulled over.
Right.
And I said, man, the police are pulling me over. So he's in, and so I turned my radio station to Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, boy.
White officer come up,
Oh, boy.
told me, you know, that I was speeding or what have you, gave me a warning.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that he gave me a warning because he heard the word Rush Limbaugh, but my friend always, you know, laughs at me because he said, man, that was ingenious. You know, the thing I said, bruh, I just want to get home safe.
Right.
That's it.
If I have to turn my radio
Whatever.
to Rush Limbaugh to act like I'm listening
Whatever
to
works.
this, to make you feel a little more comfortable with
Yes.
me,
Exactly.
that's what
That's what
I'm gonna do. But it's unfortunate that
It
we
is
have to do
unfortunate.
that.
It is.
You know, to this day, if I'm pulled over by the police, there's a level of fear that I have.
Right. I do too.
Me too.
Regardless, you commissioner or not.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No.
And we should not feel that
No,
way.
we shouldn't.
We should not feel that way. You
And
know,
it's
so
natural and it's normal. We
And-
have police officers.
Right.
I mean, our baby brother, you know, he's in the
Highway Patrol.
highway patrol,
Captain.
so we know when, you know, he talks to us and tells us, you know, everyone's different. They're
Everyone's
not all
di-
the same. They're not all bad cops.
no, they're not.
They're not.
They're not.
But still, you
Yes.
have reason to be scared.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
everything you see.
Everything you see, and in the issue, and what's interesting is white communities don't have that issue.
No.
The white mothers are not talking to their white sons
No.
No.
about how to speak to the
Police
police.
officer, right?
Keep your hands, yes sir, no
Just
sir.
have that
Now you should
conversation.
should be, you know, approaching authorities, yes
Of
sir, no
course.
sir.
So
Anyway,
Yes.
but if you don't, it shouldn't be that if you don't, you may lose your
Oh,
life.
my Lord.
Right.
You know, so we have a lot to do.
We have a lot to work
but
on
we
here.
have to address, you know, it's not one thing that we have to do. There's a lot of things
lot.
that we have to do, as well as make the investments in the communities
That's right.
that will keep our young
Yeah.
men and our young women from even encountering
Situations like
situations with, you know, with the police officers. So there's a lot to be done.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot.
There's a lot to be
Right.
done.
Your work is cut out for you.
I am ready. I am ready. Yes,
Good.
yes, yes.
that. So tell me, do you have some things coming up in the community? Some things that you want to share? Let
Yeah.
the viewers know. If you
Yeah,
have-
so we've been since I took office, probably about 185, 90 days now. You know, we had all our plans about, you know, what we'll be doing, but then COVID-19 hit.
Of course.
So then we got more into a COVID response. So
Okay.
we've been partnering with churches and many other organizations doing food distributions.
Yes.
So we have several food distributions coming up. But one of the things that we started doing is because when you have these food distributions, if it starts at 10, people start to line up at 8 o'clock.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I went to one and I saw that and I said, well, you know what? People are coming for this food, but we need them to get tested for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So this is when I was able to bring both of my hats
Good.
together. So with the food distribution, I went to my chief medical officer and said, hey, I have this idea of providing COVID testing at this food distribution. So
That
while
was a good
people are
idea.
waiting, we can just go car to
Testing.
car
Exactly.
and test. So we, you know, the first time we tested about 200 people. So we're excited, I'm excited that we can bring those, that I'm in a position to bring those two
Yes,
resources together because it's about, again, protection.
That's right.
And so, you know, but what we will be looking at is the appropriate investment in affordable housing,
Yeah.
Okay.
youth services. So
Good.
those are all the things that we're looking at because District 6, unfortunately, in the residential area has not gotten the investments that it needed, that it should have gotten. If you look in the International Drive portion of my district, a lot has happened
A lot.
there. Looks beautiful.
It does.
A lot of things have happened. But now we need to bring that into where
Yes.
the residents are. So I will be fighting and pushing for affordable housing, youth services for our seniors.
Okay.
One of the things that we hear probably every week is the need for a lot of our seniors to get their roofs done.
That's right.
And so we're pushing. We believe that there'll be some funding that the city will have to do a lot of the senior roofs in our community. So we have to build new housing stock, but we have to improve the stock
That you already
that,
have.
that we have. And so what we're talking about is really social determinants of health, addressing the built environment. You know, we need to get financial literacy, economic empowerment. We need to get, you know, because not everybody is going to go to college, and I understand that, but I personally think that it would be a benefit for everybody to experience college.
Right.
Because it opens your eyes to a
does.
lot of different things.
Right.
But understand that everybody won't go to college.
Right.
We need to be introducing our young brothers and sisters to the job market and the entrepreneurial opportunities of the future.
Yeah, it's very important. That
It's
is
very important, you know, and so we have to let them know that there's a lot of money that can be made. We need electricians.
Yes.
You know, you have electricians that make six figures.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we need to be looking at those types of industries that we can start to introduce our kids to at an early age and get them to recognize that, but also support the black businesses in the community, ensuring that they have access to capital, because that's where we fall. You know,
Sure.
you know, you think about, you know, some of these white businesses, and you know, you start peeling the onion back, and you'll see that it started with a large investment from their family, their
Right.
mother,
Yes.
grandfather,
Yep.
and then that started them on their way.
We need to do the same.
Yeah, we need to do the same, but oftentimes we don't have it.
We don't have those resources.
We don't have those resources. So we have to find them, and we have to support our black businesses so we can continue,
Yes.
you know, for them to be around, but also so they can be an example for others coming up saying, hey, I want to run my own business. And when you have a solid plan, there's areas where you can get the capital that's
Absolutely.
needed. So those are the, you know, types of things, because, you know, I have a master's of public health, so I'm always focused on what impacts our health. Again, those social determinants of
Absolutely.
health. And we oftentimes don't think about how the built environment, how the access to jobs, access to, you know, education,
Yes.
police brutality. You know, racism is a public health
It is.
emergency right
Yes,
now,
exactly.
and it has always been.
But it's more so. You can
More
really
so
see
now.
It right now.
And we in the city of Orlando need to recognize that as racism being a public health crisis.
I agree.
Because racism does kill.
It does kill.
Yes.
It does
has
kill.
killed.
It has killed.
Yes.
You know, and so we have to be with it. But you know what I'm encouraged about, you know, is with the youth and their involvement. But also, I've gotten a lot of calls from individuals in high places that don't look like us,
Yes.
who want to help,
Yes.
who've said, you know, Bakari or Commissioner Burns, I'm committing to doing better.
Awesome.
We
And
all
so-
want to do our
yeah,
part.
we're all going to
have
do our
to
part. But when you get individuals to recognize that I could have done
Yes.
something and I
Yes.
didn't,
Yes.
and they're committed to doing it now,
Yes.
I think it's a beautiful time. So the time is now. We have
The
to
time is now.
carpe diem, seize
Yes.
the day, but seize the moment.
Yes.
That's what we have to do. Take advantage, because this may be a moment that we will never see again. We have a pandemic
Yes.
that's highlighting a lot of the health disparities.
lot.
So
Yes.
what's happening is, you know, there's a revelation. There's spotlights. COVID-19 put a spotlight on the health disparities. So why are African American people dying at a higher rate? Because of the underlying health conditions.
Absolutely.
And now the spotlight is on policing, police brutality, because nobody can sit there and watch that film for 8 minutes and 46
it's
seconds
okay.
and think it's okay.
Something's
I don't
wrong if
care
they
who,
think it's
who
okay.
you
I
are.
don't care
Yes.
what color you are.
So things have been spotlighted.
Yes.
And then when they say, okay, well, why does that happen? Then you start talking about racism. Then you start talking about all of the byproducts of racism. You know, and then, you know, and so then it's not like, you know, we cannot just carry on business as usual because the world has seen it. from COVID-19 to the killing of George Floyd,
Yes.
Breonna Taylor,
Yes.
Rashad Aubrey.
Yes.
All of those killings have really shined light. And unfortunately, they're not the first.
No.
I hope they will be the last.
I hope.
But we have to work as a community. And what I told people, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that does not happen in the city of Orlando.
Yes.
A friend and fraternity brother of mine is Attorney Benjamin Crump,
Okay.
one of the smartest guys I
Yes, he
know.
is.
And so I reached out to him and asked him, I said, you know, Brother Ben, tell me what is it that the city of Orlando needs to have in place. So what happened in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and other places will never happen here in the city of Orlando. Because I'm committed to doing that. And we're going to push, we're going to
Yes.
push, we're going to demand. We're not in this to say we tried. No, we're in this to say, look what we did.
Yes,
Right.
there you
know,
go.
and that's what our youth, they're demanding.
Yes.
And I love it.
Me
Yes.
too.
I love it.
They're all
Be-
over it,
They're
aren't
all over it. And they're not taking no
No
for
for
an
an answer.
answer. You know, now but also what I appreciate is a lot of them being willing to listen to.
Yes.
You know, they're making some demands, but they will listen.
Yes.
And that's important because we all have to listen to
Have
what
to.
we're
Have to.
saying and truly engage in that fruitful dialogue.
Commissioner Burns, we have run out of time.
Oh, really? So that means will you have me back?
Of course.
All right, so we'll have more time.
There you go. I love this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
we could have kept going on and on.
Yeah.
You know, you're just so inspiring.
Yes, you are.
Thank
You're
you.
inspiring,
Thank
and
you.
we literally salute you with
Thank
all
you.
the work that you're doing in the
Thank you.
community. We appreciate what you're doing. We see you in any way that we can help. We're here to help.
Yes, please, please.
So-
I mean, just this platform that you have, you know, raising awareness and giving, because I was looking forward to sitting down, because actually I asked my aide last week, I said, is it this week? He said, no, man, it's next week. I said,
Yes.
okay, because I just wanted to be, you know, I'm excited, you know, because we
Yes.
can sit down, and the environment is one that we want to get information out
Absolutely.
to help,
Yes,
and
that's
that's what
right.
I'm
That's
all
it.
about.
Thank you so much for
Yes,
taking
thank
time
you.
out.
It's my pleasure, anytime.
All right.
All right.
We want to thank you for tuning in to Candid Conversations. Please join us next Tuesday at 6 p.m. for another guest right here from our community. They're going to share their journey. In closing, we had an amazing example tonight of what it means to lead from the front. It's one thing to tell someone what to do, but Commissioner Burns demonstrates compassion, visibility, and leadership in the community. His perseverance is his power. Kobe Bryant once said, "Great things come from hard work and perseverance. No excuses." We thank you for tuning in to Candid Conversations.
Welcome to Candid Conversations online and TV show, a space where the least desired and hardest topics are brought to light in order to heal as a community.